The UK honey scandal. 7 brands under the microscope. Introduction. What if I told you that the honey sitting in your kitchen cupboard right now might not be what you think it is? That the golden substance you've been spreading on your toast, stirring into your tea, and giving to your children might be at the center of one of the biggest food authenticity controversies the UK has ever seen? Today, we're diving deep into the honey scandal that has left British shoppers questioning everything they thought they knew about this supposedly natural superfood. We're not here to make accusations or point fingers, but we are here to examine what real customers are saying, what patterns have emerged, and why thousands of everyday Brits have taken to review sections to warn others about what they discovered when they opened their honey jars. Because here's the thing. For years, honey was the product we never questioned. It was natural, wholesome, healthy. We grabbed it off the shelf without a second thought, trusted the label, and assumed what we were buying was exactly what bees had made. But then came the investigations, the lab reports, the headlines about fake honey flooding the market, and suddenly, people started paying attention. And when they did, they noticed something disturbing. The wake-up call. The fake honey scandal didn't just make headlines and disappear. It fundamentally changed how British consumers look at honey. We started reading labels more carefully, comparing textures and colors, actually tasting our honey with intention rather than just using it as a sweetener. And for the first time, thousands of people began leaving reviews that were, frankly, eye-opening. These weren't just complaints about price or packaging. These were genuine expressions of confusion, disappointment, and sometimes shock from customers who felt something was seriously wrong with what they'd purchased. People who bought honey expecting one thing and experienced something completely different. So in this investigation, we're amplifying those voices. The honest, unfiltered experiences of UK shoppers who opened their honey jars and felt compelled to warn the next person. These are the 7 honey brands that sparked the most questions, the most complaints, and the biggest concerns from the British public. Let's start with the one that comes up again and again. Brand number 1, Stamford Street Co. Clear honey. If there's one honey that dominates the conversation around confusion and disappointment, it's Stamford Street Co. Clear honey. And here's the irony. Most people only bought it because it was cheap, readily available, and sitting right there next to the premium brands. But what they got was an experience so unusual that the reviews read less like product feedback and more like urgent warnings. The overwhelming pattern here isn't subtle. Customers aren't saying it's bland or not their favorite. They're using words like golden syrup, corn syrup, and in one particularly alarming case, battery acid. That's an actual quote from a verified buyer who described the first taste as sugar syrup and the aftertaste as a chemical burn sensation going down their throat. They finished their review with a statement that's hard to forget. If this stuff has been anywhere near a bee during its production, I'd be amazed. But it gets stranger. One reviewer tried to revive a tired bee with this honey, a common practice when you find an exhausted bee. The bee refused to go near it. Think about that for a moment. A bee, the creature that literally makes honey, wouldn't touch it. The texture complaints are equally consistent. Reviewers describe it as extremely runny, so liquid that it slides off toast before you can spread it. Others say it crystallizes into pure sugar in cold weather, behaving like syrup left outside rather than natural honey. Many note it has virtually no smell, which is highly unusual for genuine honey. And then there's the label issue. The brand name sounds reassuringly British, Stamford Street Co. It evokes images of traditional British honey production. But many reviewers reported discovering later, usually in tiny print, that the honey inside is sourced from China and only packed in the UK. Now, origin alone doesn't prove anything. Honey can come from anywhere. But the combination of ultra-low price, vague labeling, and hundreds of reviews describing a syrup-like product is exactly the pattern that food authenticity experts say consumers should watch for. The reviews paint a picture of widespread disappointment. People expected honey and felt they got something else entirely. And many finished their reviews with the same uncomfortable question: what exactly am I eating, and where did it really come from? Brand number 2, Hilltop Blossom Honey. On the surface, Hilltop Blossom Honey looks like a brand doing everything right. Modern packaging, clean branding, and marketing that positions it as transparent and trustworthy. But scroll through the customer reviews, and a very different picture emerges. The first shock for many buyers wasn't even the taste. It was reading the label. Right there, printed clearly on the back. Origin, a blend of non-EU honeys. For British shoppers who've been following the honey scandal news, those words set off immediate alarms. Why? Because every major investigation into honey authenticity, whether from EU labs, UK trading standards, or independent researchers, points to the same high-risk category: non-EU blended honey from multiple unidentified countries. That doesn't automatically mean something is wrong, but it does mean people look closer, and in Hilltop's case, what they found through tasting didn't reassure them. One customer put it bluntly: a blend of non-EU honeys, which recent surveys have shown to be mixed with syrup, as non-EU countries are allowed to do. Others described a strange aftertaste, something they couldn't quite identify but knew wasn't the rich floral taste they expected from blossom honey. The recurring theme in reviews is a sweetness that feels wrong. Not pleasantly sweet, but intensely, almost aggressively sugary. The kind of sweetness that hits hard and fast, more like concentrated syrup than honey that's been slowly created by bees from flower nectar. Here's where it gets interesting. The brand's own website uses almost poetic marketing language. A carefully sourced blend of non-EU honeys, all top tier and 100% the real deal. But many shoppers reading that looked back at their jar and wondered, if it's carefully sourced from top-tier producers, why does it taste off? Why the unusual aftertaste? Why the sugar-heavy profile that doesn't match what blossom honey should taste like? And perhaps most importantly, why blend honeys from multiple undisclosed countries in the first place? For a brand marketing itself as premium, modern, and health-focused, Hilltop Blossom Honey has accumulated a surprisingly long list of reviews expressing the exact opposite sentiment. Customers don't just feel disappointed, they feel suspicious about why what they're tasting doesn't match what they expect honey to taste like. Brand 3, Sainsbury's Clear Honey. This one is particularly surprising because Sainsbury's is a supermarket that families trust. It's where people feel safe buying their essentials. But for Sainsbury's Clear Honey, the most common customer reaction wasn't comfort or reliability. It was confusion. Deep, immediate, visceral confusion. At first glance, it looks like every other supermarket honey. Golden, smooth, affordable, unremarkable. But according to hundreds of reviews, the moment it touches the tongue, something feels profoundly off. The feedback repeats with almost eerie consistency. One reviewer tasted it side by side with another supermarket honey and found barely a hint of honey taste or smell. Several compared it directly to golden syrup. One person asked outright, "Is this even honey?" But the reviews get more pointed. Someone wrote, "This isn't unpleasant, but it tastes more like toffee than honey." Another said, "I can't believe this can be sold as honey." And one of the most brutal reviews simply stated, "This honey has never seen a bee." We can't verify that claim, obviously. But the fact that customers felt compelled to write it publicly tells you everything about the flavor profile they experienced. Many noted the honey was extremely runny, even by Clear Honey standards. Others mentioned a nasty aftertaste, something chemical, bitter, or strangely artificial. The texture was described as watery, the smell as almost non-existent. But perhaps the biggest red flag to shoppers wasn't the taste. It was what wasn't on the label. Sainsbury's Clear Honey doesn't specify a country of origin. Not British, not EU, nothing. For a major supermarket chain that otherwise provides detailed product information, this omission stood out. And for many shoppers, the moment the honey hit their tongue, they weren't tasting nectar and natural sweetness. They were tasting something that reminded them of syrup, with only a faint whisper of honey, somewhere far in the background. The disconnect between expectation and experience is what makes this product particularly notable. People trust Sainsbury's, they expect quality. And when that trust feels violated by something as basic as honey, the disappointment runs deep. Brand number 4. Tesco Clear Honey. Tesco is the biggest supermarket chain in the UK, which means this product reaches more households than perhaps any other honey on this list. And the reviews here aren't just disappointed, they're concerned, not because it tastes bad, but because people genuinely don't recognize it as honey at all. The first theme running through the reviews is health expectations. People pointed out that honey is supposed to be a health food, something natural with benefits, something they use intentionally for digestion, immunity, and soothing sore throats. So when reviewers describe Tesco honey as seed syrup, or the opposite of a health food, that's not just a taste complaint. That's someone who bought honey for their well-being and ended up questioning what it's doing to their body. This leads directly into the second theme, identity confusion. Several shoppers noticed unusual wording on the label. It says, "Made naturally from flower nectar collected by honeybees." That sounds like a normal sentence describing how honey is made. But some customers started reading it more carefully and asking uncomfortable questions. Is this describing the natural process that bees do? Or is it describing a process that uses the same nectar, but without bees? Is the wording cleverly crafted to sound like honey without actually confirming how it was produced? The taste comparisons in the reviews are striking. This product is repeatedly likened to corn syrup, rice syrup from China, and golden syrup with water added. The texture is described as shockingly watery, with an odd thinness that doesn't behave like clear honey should. One person said it sticks to the teeth like syrup. Another mentioned it gave them headaches. Many noticed a nasty, bitter, sour smell that caught them off guard. For a product that should smell sweet and floral, this was unexpected. And just like Sainsbury's, Tesco Clear Honey doesn't specify a country of origin on the label. Not British, not EU, nothing. This omission, combined with the unusual taste and texture, left many shoppers feeling like they'd purchased something fundamentally different from what they expected. The reviews convey a sense of betrayal. Tesco is trusted, Tesco is familiar. And when something as basic as honey from Tesco doesn't taste like honey, people question everything. Brand number 5, Pasieka Multiflower, Honey. If there's one honey on this list that caught people off guard simply because of the name, it's this one. Multiflower honey sounds wholesome, traditional, and natural. It evokes images of bees visiting diverse wildflower meadows, creating a complex aromatic honey. But the reviews tell a very different story. The first thing that stood out wasn't even the taste. It was the color. Multiple reviewers described it as having an unnatural yellow color. Not golden, not amber, but a bright, almost artificial-looking shade of yellow that immediately made them question what they'd bought. It didn't match the honey they were used to from other brands or local producers. And once they tasted it, the opinions only intensified. One reviewer didn't hold back. Very bad. Nothing like honey I know. But the most repeated complaint across reviews was about the sweetness. Not just sweet, but extreme sweetness. Reviewers described the flavor as sugary and unpleasant, the texture as very thin, and the overall experience as closer to a strong syrup than anything floral or multiflower. One customer went even further, saying it felt like pure sugar with an artificial taste layered on top. These aren't our words or our judgments, We're simply reporting what customers themselves publicly stated after buying, opening, and tasting this product. And the pattern in those comments is unmistakable. People expected a multi-flower honey with depth, aroma, complexity, and richness. They expected something that would showcase the variety of flowers the bees had visited. Instead, they described something one-dimensional, intensely sweet, and lacking any of the nuanced flavors that make multi-flower honey distinctive. The disappointment is palpable in the reviews. Some customers felt misled, others felt like they'd wasted their money, and many took the time to warn other shoppers to look elsewhere if they wanted genuine multi-flower honey. Brand number 6, Asda Classic Runny Honey. Asda's Classic Runny Honey has one of the strangest review histories on this entire list. Not just because people complained, but because so many longtime customers described a shift in the product over time. Buyers who had purchased it for years suddenly started reporting that something felt different, something felt wrong. And for many of them, the alarm bells rang the moment Asda quietly removed the word pure from the label. One reviewer said flat out, "They've removed pure, most likely because it's cut with syrup." When the British public notices branding changes, especially when paired with a different taste or texture, they pay attention. And in this case, the changes were hard to ignore. One person said the lid was dusty, the jar looked old, and the crystallization was so advanced, they questioned how long it had been sitting in storage before reaching their kitchen. They requested a refund immediately. Others didn't complain about crystallization itself. Honey can crystallize naturally. But about the taste of those crystals. One reviewer said once it crystallized, the flavor changed completely, developing a strange taste that didn't match honey at all. Another recurring theme was unusual behavior. Several customers said the honey dissolved in water instantly, which made them think it behaved more like a sweetener or glucose solution than something produced by bees. One reviewer said they were planning to report it to trading standards because the behavior was so abnormal. And then there's the health angle, which almost no other honey on this list triggers so strongly. Multiple reviewers said they bought honey specifically for its natural properties and health benefits, only to feel like Asda's version was the exact opposite. One person said it had no goodness in it at all. Another said they felt misled because they bought honey for health reasons, but felt they'd ended up with something sugary that didn't deliver what they expected. Even long-time Asda shoppers complained that the large jars were discontinued and replaced with what they described as a cheap version that crystallized faster and tasted weaker. Some reviews accused the new version of being watered down or simply not the honey we had before. These are direct voices of Asda customers who bought it, tasted it, and felt something wasn't right. The pattern of disappointment from loyal customers who noticed a change is particularly telling. Brand number 7. Bonus. Little over apiaries. Acacia honey. This one is almost tragic because the expectations are so specific. Everyone who knows honey understands acacia honey. It's pale, delicate, runny, floral, and often described as one of the smoothest, most refined honeys in the world. Acacia honey is famously slow to crystallize. Some jars stay liquid for years. So when shoppers opened this jar expecting elegance, they were met with something that had them staring in disbelief before they'd even tasted it. One reviewer summed up the shock perfectly. "We looked at the jar, saw the horrid solid mass and said, 'This isn't acacia honey.'" Customers described it as solid, cloudy, crystallized, and full of sugar crystals. Even before tasting it, many felt something was wildly inconsistent with the acacia honey they knew. Then they tasted it. Review after review described the same experience. No aroma, no floral notes, no acacia flavor at all. Instead, consumers said it tasted like nothing but sugar, intensely sugary, thick, and strangely flavorless. One person said it was so lacking in taste that it could only be used for cooking because putting it on toast felt like a waste. Others were more direct. "This is not honey, it is sugar. There is no honey taste, no smell, nothing." Only the label says it's honey. Again, these aren't our claims. These are direct customer quotes. But when multiple reviewers describe a honey as having zero flavor, especially a variety known for its gentle, distinctive taste, it raises serious questions about why the sensory profile is so far from expectations. One particularly interesting review noted there was no infant warning on the jar, something commonly printed on honey because of botulism risks. The customer wondered whether that meant the product contained so little traditional honey that it wasn't considered a risk. That's their speculation, not ours, but the fact they even had that thought is revealing. And then there's the origin issue. People saw little over apiaries, a warm, local-sounding English name, only to discover it's actually a blend of EU and non-EU honeys. This left them feeling deceived. One reviewer said, "I was fooled. What a sweet name. So English. But this is far from English honey." Little over apiaries. Acacia. Honey didn't spark disappointment because it was cheap or poorly packaged. It sparked disappointment because customers bought something specifically called acacia honey and couldn't find anything in the jar that resembled acacia honey at all. Conclusion. What this all means. So, what are we supposed to take away from all of this? First, let's be clear about what we're not saying. We're not claiming these products are fake. We're not making accusations about specific brands or manufacturing processes. We're not food scientists running lab tests. What we are doing is listening to the voices of thousands of British consumers who bought these products, tasted them, and felt strongly enough to publicly share their experiences. And those experiences follow patterns that are impossible to ignore. The patterns are clear. Products that taste more like syrup than honey. Textures that are unusually runny or oddly crystallized. Labels that lack origin information or list vague blends of non-EU honeys. And a consistent disconnect between what people expect honey to taste like and what they're actually experiencing. The honey scandal has changed how we shop. We're reading labels now, we're asking questions, we're comparing products, and we're trusting our own taste buds when something doesn't feel right. If you're wondering what you can do, here are a few practical steps. Check the label for country of origin. British honey or honey from a specific named country is more traceable than vague blends from undisclosed sources. Look at the price. If it seems too cheap compared to other honeys, ask yourself why. Real honey takes time, resources, and bees to produce. Trust your taste. If your honey tastes more like syrup than honey, if it has no aroma, if it leaves a strange aftertaste, those are valid concerns. Consider buying from local producers or farmers markets where you can ask questions directly. And remember, price and availability aren't everything. Sometimes it's worth paying a bit more for something you can trust. The British public has spoken through these reviews and their message is clear. We deserve to know what we're eating, where it comes from, and whether what's on the label matches what's in the jar. Stay aware, stay sharp, and protect your plate. Thanks for watching. The UK Honey Scandal. 7 brands under the microscope. What if I told you that the honey sitting in your kitchen cupboard right now might not be what you think it is?